Yeah, the season 5 finale was like really bad. I didn't think it was gonna get worse. That actually could be a lie. I think it did. I did think it was gonna get worse. But man, it was really bad. I was trying not to watch it around Christmas. There was a lot of things happening around my Christmas that I was like, I do not have the emotional capacity to watch this, and I'm not with my partner to watch this with me, and I needed to complain about it with someone that knows film and like writing. But I was seeing everything on Twitter, even fucking New Year's Eve. I was just checking out all those updates on Twitter, learning about what happened. And then I finally watched it, and people were saying it was bad, but watching it from what my knowledge is, oh, oh, that was rough. I am a firm believer, I think, in Divorcegate. I think which I don't know which one it is. I think it's Rostuffer. I don't know. It's two white men, so I don't really care. But yeah, one of them got divorced, and I think the wife took all of her talent with her when she left him, as she should. I think she is in her right to take all that talent, especially if she was the ghostwriter for every other season, which again I would believe, especially because it's the same woman that did the Fear Street series, and I love the Fear Street series. It's so good. Like I remember I was like, Josh, you need to watch this. We need to watch the Fear Street trilogy because I think you're gonna love it. It has queer characters, they're well written, the story is compelling. There's so much about it that's like, ooh, yes. And then I think that she was definitely taken advantage of by the Duffers for her ability to write compelling stories. She had enough of it. She said, I'm leaving. And then they decided to take out their anger on women in the show because the second part, all of the women are just really reduced to absolutely nothing, huh? Yeah, so that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the entirety of season 5. I am trying to give an homage to 11 from season 2. This is the closest outfit I could find. I personally don't have overalls. I do want some, but I don't have any. So these are Josh's, so they're a little big on me. But I guess it makes me look more like a 10-year-old, which I guess is canonically accurate. And I did try to give myself a bloody nose and curl my hair because, I'm 11. Like, wait, let's get that thumbnail. Beautiful. Anyway, let's get into some of this. Okay, this is maybe like a wild thing for me to say. I'm gonna confidently say this, and anyone can clown me if they want to. I think I'm a better writer than the Duffer Brothers. If season 5 hadn't come out, maybe I wouldn't say that. Maybe I wouldn't say that I'm a better writer than the Duffer Brothers. But then season 5 came out, and they were supposedly using ChatGPT for research purposes. And you know what? I think I should make a list of like the sins of season 5 with the Duffer Brothers. So let me get a pen. Season 5 sins. Yeah, that's showing up. All right, so number 1, Chat GPT. Because honestly, a lot of those lines in the show, I think that was Chat GPT, and I don't think anyone can say anything different. Because the whole when Lucas is like defending Dustin from the bullies in the first episode, and then Mike comes in, he's like, yeah, stop that punk from reproducing. I can't remember what the fuck he says, but it's something so stupid. It like, no one would say that, actually. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say something like that before, and no one in their life would. Has anyone ever been like, I'm going to kick you in the ball so hard to stop you from reproducing because then we'll stop the spread of your idiocy? I think we'd say it online, but I don't know if anyone's actually saying that to someone's face, nor would I think anyone say that in the 80s. I think in the 80s more slurs would have been thrown around, actually. But they're not going to do that because it's Netflix and it's the Duffer Brothers and they're pussies. That's a claim, a big old claim, I think, but I think I'm right. And also just the way things that felt really flimsy. Like, I was watching a video recently about a book that was pretty much written by ChatGPT, and a lot of the things that were in that book I really do think could be applied to Stranger Things. But then also there is the fucking documentary that they released, which I assume is them trying to make themselves look good and getting their last $1 million or whatever. But you can see the little icon in the corner there. And someone on Twitter, I don't know who it was, and I'm sorry, I feel like I need to start screenshotting tweets from, like, I should mention this. They said that they would have had more luck and more, and not more, but better writing if they had gone on AO3. And I agree. I think there's a lot more interesting not conspiracy theories, but theories about the show and theories about the storyline that were better on Twitter and TikTok. But unfortunately, I just think that they're stupid. Like, they really had no idea what they were doing. And then another sin, which I had mentioned before, but I do want to talk about this more, of Divorcegate. Because the way that the women are treated, especially like in the last half of this season, just screams to me men that hate women. I guess I was going to go through each episode, but I like, that's a lot of fucking work. And I think we just sort of need to talk about all the issues. And for me to delve into every single episode is going to be a fucking ton of work. And I've already done that work, but I don't know if I want to bore anyone because, let me be honest, I was really bored. And full disclaimer, I didn't even watch the season over again for this video. I was watching reactors watch it. So shout out Bridgeco for posting their react videos because that was the only way I was going to rewatch this show. I was not about to go back to Netflix and spend like 12 hours of my life watching season 5 of Stranger Things when I already know it's shit from a butt. It's not worth my time. But yeah, Divorcegate, they really, really reduced their femme characters down to just characters of what they used to be. And I think that's really disappointing, especially since, like, Elle was one of the main characters since season 1, and same thing with Joyce. But unfortunately, one of them got divorced, and instead of going to therapy or talking about his feelings like a normal person, he decided to do what I like to do, which is write my feelings out. But by doing that, he had to make these women seem like villains or something. Because they bring back Callie. I keep mispronouncing her name. I think it's Callie. I think I said it wrong in the last video. They bring her back, and then everyone's like, oh my god, she's a secret villain. She's a secret villain. She's working with Vecna. She's working for the Mind Flayer. And it's like, why? Because she's a woman? Because she's an abused woman? They make Joyce just kind of stupid, like her trying to come up with these plans for them and trying to bring down Vecna and everything. For some reason, they just like make fun of her. They like make her out to be this misunderstood, like she's not grasping everything that's going on. So when like she comes up with that one plan in that episode after Will is able to take out all the Demogorgons, and it's just like a bad plan, everyone's just like, whoo. But remember, this is the woman that figured out how to communicate with the Upside Down in season 1. She was able to communicate with her son. But now she's an idiot when she was the only one that had any sort of concept of what was happening in the Upside Down for the first season. She figured out how to put the lights up there. She's like, I made an alphabet. Tell me ABC. Spell out words for me. Like, let me get all these lights and these lamps and stuff so I can communicate. Blink once for yes, twice for no. And then in season 2, she's also very smart because she figures out that Will's drawings are like a map, and she's the one that's actually able to piece that whole thing together with the help of Mike. Like, she was very smart. She was smart in season 3 as well because she was determined to figure out what was happening with the magnets and stuff. Like, yeah, she was smart. She was trying to expand her knowledge. And then in season 5, for some reason, she just doesn't really understand how things work. Not to mention, like, the reduction of, like, femme relationships in the show. Because in season 4, we get a lot of, like, Nancy and a lot of Robin being friends and doing stuff. I think they interact twice in the whole season. I think they interact in the first episode when she's like, oh, you bring out the Neanderthals in these boys. And in the end, when they're like, we should meet in Philadelphia every year because we love and miss each other. And they actually had, like, a really interesting friendship in season 4. Like, they were different and kind of had this weird balance between the two of them, but then ultimately, like, they understood each other. They were both smart. They could have made a really good investigative team together, because Robin is very smart in her way, where she's kind of able to unravel the mind of a person, whereas Nancy is able to put these puzzle pieces together from different sources and whatever. Like, both of them together figured out the music thing with Henry, and then we never get to see them again together. Same thing with Elle and Max. Again, I mentioned, like, the whole, like, you're here, you're really here with Max and Elle, and that's kind of the only friendship thing that we get from them in season 5, which really is a slap in the face to both of them, because in season 3 it was so poignant. Max made Elle feel like her own person, which is the first time that she ever got to feel like a fucking person, since I think Mike let her have a nickname. Ever since then, she was kind of just controlled by both of them, and she was just seen as, this is my daughter or this is my girlfriend, where Max was like, no, you're a person. And I think Max was the important one to do that for Elle, since Max was very much abused by her older brother. So she kind of had this understanding of what it feels like to be forced into this box of this, like, character, I guess. Like, she was just Max's bullshit little sister, so she knows how that feels of being reduced to one thing. So she was trying to help Elle be more. And then season 4, they have the one moment, and then season 5, they have, like, 3. But then Max doesn't even have, like, a huge reaction when Elle dies. And then she also gives credit to Will for being alive, which really bothered me, because, honey, Elle was the one that restarted your heart. She was the one that brought you back to life. Not Will. Will was protecting you, I guess. I don't know. Again, another Twitter thing, but someone said that they really just had, like, Will replace Elle in season 5. And holy shit, yeah, you're fucking right. They did. And I blame Divorcegate. I really do. Because suddenly, I guess, you can't separate woman from my wife. And there's just some sort of vendetta against all the women in the show. Then also killing Elle. Like, I did mention in my last video, I think it makes sense for Elle to die. But not in the way that they did it. I really don't think that the way Elle dies in the last episode means anything, actually. Elle should have died before they closed the gate to the Upside Down, before they destroyed it. I just, because the way that the Upside Down is created it's a combination of her, Henry, and Will, right? It's all of them, because Vecna had his like Dimension X stuff, and then she created, like, this Upside Down to sort of send him there, where the Demogorgons and the Demodogs and the Demobats are all there, and he's like, my army that I can control, because I also have the Mind Flayer helping me control, which put a pin in that of the Mind Flayer controlling Vecna thing, because I was spot on. And then Will creates the Upside Down as Hawkins once he's taken there. So all 3 of them kind of have this connection, and I think the only way to sort of end everything was if all of them died, not just Vecna and Elle. I think Will had to die too. I think he was dead the whole time. But I don't know. I guess the rules of the Upside Down decided to change as the show went on. Like, they had to go into the Upside Down in season 1 in a hazmat suit, and then season 2 and they're like, we want to go into the Upside Down to set fire to it, to help out with the mind flare and everything back in season 2 when all that was happening. They were wearing face coverings with like bandanas and stuff. Hopper almost died in the Upside Down because it was so toxic. Did they? I don't think they went to the Upside Down in season 3. They didn't, right? No, they didn't go to the Upside Down in season 3. They did in season 4, and then that's when they were just able to like walk around like it wasn't toxic. And then Vicky's in season 5, she's like, is this toxic? And it's like, I don't know. Actually, you do know. We do know this. Because why else would you be getting free health screenings if it wasn't toxic? But then also the military doesn't care about it being toxic because they have a whole fucking base in there. Again, goofy as hell to have helicopters just flying around in the Upside Down. But yeah, and then they also reduced a lot of Elle's character to not being a replacement for Sarah with her relationship with Hopper. And I just don't think that was ever the case. She has this thing where she's saying, oh, I'm not Sarah. Yeah, he knows that. Oh, she gives the bracelet back too, which I think was stupid. I don't think she needed to give Sarah's bracelet back to Hopper or like her hair tie or whatever, just because she's like, I'm not Sarah. He was passing that down as like, you are my new daughter, you are my new mission, not Sarah, Sarah's gone and I care about you, so this is my way of sort of including you into my life. But I don't know, maybe that's just me and I'm stupid because I have a female brain. But I don't like that they had reduced their relationship to that. I think it was a lot more where they were really coming together to learn how to have a relationship together of, oh, we're two stubborn punk asses, as they kept saying throughout season 5. But I thought the whole thing from season 2 was him realizing that she isn't Sarah, that he does have to let her go and grow up. And then season 3 was kind of the same thing of, I do have to let you grow up, I do have to let you change. And then he fake out dies, and then we don't get to see them have a relationship again until season 5. Then they ultimately destroy it. Wow, maybe I'm realizing season 4 did not set up season 5 that great either. Huh. But like season 4 was kind of fun, right? I think the whole Vecna stuff was really good. I don't think the Russia stuff was good. I don't think the California stuff was good. I think Elle's storyline was good. Oh, but speaking of Elle's storyline from season 4 to now season 5, I thought season 4's whole thing was that she was sort of able to hone into her powers all the time, right? Like, she didn't have to always be physically exhausted from her powers like she was in previous seasons. Like, she didn't lose her powers in season 3. They were just subdued, and then Dr. Brenner and Dr. Owens are like helping her get that back, right? And then in season 5, it's suddenly back to like, Elle is this machine that she needs to charge her battery, she needs Gatorade, she needs food in order to keep going. And like, I mean, yeah, as any person does need food and water and things to be energized, but I don't remember her powers solely relying on that at that point. Like, I thought we kind of moved past that, but then I think that brings us back to Divorcegate of like, a woman is not allowed to be powerful. Again, like with Nancy, the only thing that she can do to be powerful is use a gun and be Jonathan's girlfriend, and then they break up. Robin just is reduced to dick jokes and making dick jokes about Steve's dick, and then her relationship with Vicky is kind of treated as a joke. Max is reduced to being in Henry's mindscape and trying to be helpful to Holly, but then we don't even see Holly and Max interact once they're on the right side up, and then Max isn't really able to do anything in the finale. So I feel like they could have just kept her in the coma until the finale, and maybe like Vecna's dead and then that wakes her up. Sorry, like season 5 just really, really pisses me off. Okay. Anyway, there's some other sins for season 5. Look, no hate to Holly. Her storyline, I just, like, I guess there's that question of, like, what else would the storyline be if it wasn't with Holly? But I've seen Holly since she was in a high chair in season 1, and now she's supposed to be, like, 12 or something, which mathematically is not correct at all, that she at most is, like, 8, maybe 7. Does not look that. She looks like she's in middle school. But what exactly is her trauma? Because I think Vecna's whole thing was pinpointing kids with extreme trauma. That's why he went after Chrissy. Chrissy had a troubling relationship with her mother back when we saw her in season 4, and then she also had an eating disorder, which I think was also put onto her from her mother. Her father was quite absent-minded as a father is, been there. And then there's I think his name is Freddie, Nancy's reporter friend, where he was in a car accident and he just left the other kid there to die. That there was the other kid, I don't know what the fuck happened with that kid, honestly. I don't think we've really seen much of it. But then Max has all of her stuff with Billy. And then he also, back in season 1, when he apparently had the whole plan from the beginning with Will, he goes after Will, and Will does have a lot of trauma because it's kind of obvious Lonnie's a really bad dad. He's physically abusive, as we very well know from how he was treating Jonathan. The fact that Jonathan felt the need to check his trunk back in season 1 because he was afraid of what their father could do. I think that warrants enough trauma for Vecna to want to feed off of that. Yeah, Holly's Ted sucks and Karen's kind of a drunk, but I feel like isn't that just sort of an average 80 parent from what I've heard? Like a parent from the 80s, didn't they just kind of drink? I mean, Derek, I don't know. Also, his mom was a drunk and his dad was a drunk, but I mean, he seemed kind of okay in his life, so I don't know what Mr. Whatsit and Henry was really trying to go after when in season 4 it was about their trauma. And also, I just need to say to the 12-year-olds that were really mad at me for calling Vecna a pedophile, I really think you need to rethink that friendship with that 22-year-old that you have. And if you're a grown adult that was mad at me for saying Vecna is a pedophile, leave those children alone, actually. Because the entire time, Vecna is just a pedophile. He literally is going after children. Someone was like, well, he was going after kids because their minds are more dense. He actually says the opposite, fucking word for word, of their minds are weak. He literally says that their minds are weak. And I'm supposed to believe that he's not a pedophile. Even if he's not doing something sexual or has sexual urges to them, he's still grooming them for a purpose, and that falls under the umbrella of pedophilia. So look me in the eyes and tell me I'm wrong, or that you're just mad because I called you out. Like, little 12-year-old boys and girls, you don't need to defend that old man because he's using you. I know he said you're mature, but I think Mr. Whatsit also said that Holly was mature, and we know that Mr. Whatsit is a bad guy, right? Right? Like, why are we defending Vecna here? I really don't get it. Why are we defending a pedo? But, I mean, look at the world we're in, right? But yeah, the Holly storyline is really boring to me. And I feel bad. It's nothing against the actress. It really isn't. She's doing the best she can. She's kind of just thrown into this whole storyline that had no build-up. There's no build-up to Mr. Whatsit in any other episode or season. They just introduced it for this. And also the fact that there's this mystery of like, oh my God, guys, who's Mr. Whatsit? Who do you think? Are you guys that dense? Who do you think? What? So like, and there's still no real explanation as to why he needed the 12 kids. Like, they have Lucas very, very obviously say that there are no coincidences. You know, they're being taken before November 6th, which is the same day that Will was taken all those years ago. And then everything is just a coincidence. According to the Duffer Brothers, everything is a coincidence. There's no reason why he had 12 kids, not even because it's like the clocks that were striking in season 4. And someone even said somewhere like it would have been more interesting if like it meant that every hour for 12 hours a kid was dropping dead. There we go. There's more stakes. Now we have more stakes other than just these random 12 kids get taken that we know nothing about. They're just Holly's friends. And then Mr. What's It is like, I'm protecting you from the monsters. And you know what would have made more sense if he was trying to say, like, I'm protecting you from the monsters? If Demogorgons, Demodogs, and Demobats were actually roaming in the upside right, whatever the fuck. The right side up. That would have made more sense. Because now they're actually seeing monsters, but then we're supposed to be like, yeah, they're totally believing this strange man about monsters that they've never seen and have no idea about because they've still kept the right side up as a secret. I don't understand, actually. And I you know, sometimes I thought maybe it's because I'm stupid, but I don't think I'm stupid. Like, I think I'm making a valid point here. There's no reason for him to have these 12 kids except to bring the worlds together. But why is that bringing the worlds together? Why does that bring the Dimension X to collide with the real world? And also the fucking, like, here's the dimension, and then it funnels down, and then it goes into the bottom thing here. Wow. They really went with that theory and made it that physical reality for their show. I mean, I don't know, the concept of, like, black holes and stuff are also scary because we don't know what's on the other side of them. What if we just didn't know what was on the other side? Like, anyway, sorry, back to Holly. She just kind of annoys me. And again, I think part of that is the Duffer Brothers to blame because they don't know how to write women or girls. And especially with Divorcegate, like, they obviously hate women and want to see them suffer. Again, bringing things back to Callie, where they decide to bring in this character that everyone already hated, and now suddenly she's maybe a bad guy, but then she's not a bad guy, and then they kill her. They kill the only other POC in the show, an abused girl who had to watch her friends be brutally murdered in front of her. Her blood was taken from her, and then she gets shot and dies. And then Elle dies. And then I keep diverting from Holly, but I think that's because there's really nothing interesting with Holly. It brings in Derek, and I gotta be honest, I kind of fucks with Derek. I think he's funny. I like that he goes from dipshit Derek to delightful Derek back to dipshit Derek. And they actually got to use a full-on your mom joke instead of the one that they threw in season 2. And it's not even supposed to be a joke. It's just like Will's being controlled by the mind flare. And Joyce is like, who am I? And he's like, your mom. But this one we actually get like, who gave you this? And he's like, your mom. And in that scene, Jamie Campbell Bower, man, he's so talented. I know he's trying to take a break from horror things and stuff, but I want to see him as like a slasher or something because holy shit was he scary and kind of hot, but very scary when he was threatening Derek like that. He's like holding his chin and shoving him around. It was scary. I gotta give him props for that one. It was scary. But yeah, Derek, I'm glad Derek and Holly become friends. I think Derek, when he bumps into Holly and Max after he follows them and he's like explaining everything and he's talking about like Mr. What's His Plan. He's like, and then I'm looking around and it's like, oh, you know something too, because obviously what the hell is he talking about? This shit doesn't make sense. So I decided to follow you. And I kind of, it's something more than we needed. And also, like, they were trying to recreate the whole vanishing of Will Byers thing with the whole vanishing of Holly Wheeler. But the reason why the vanishing of Will Byers was so successful was because we didn't know where he was. We didn't know if he was alive. We didn't know what monster it was. Now we know everything, and then we're just sort of subjected to seeing everything that happens in the mind palace of Henry's. So then I'm not, like, really concerned about her at that point because I know she's going to be fine. I'm seeing her be fine. I mean, she's with her, she's with Henry in her tentacle pedophile hell, but technically she's fine, right? Like, I don't know. Another sin from season 5 is Will. Again, I know I said it in the last video where I was like, they just don't really know what to do with him. Like, I do think him getting powers makes sense and everything. But the person that said that he's just a replacement for Elle is just fucking dead on. Because he has powers, and then like in the finale he gets Hopper as a dad, Joyce as a mom, they move into Hopper's cabin, so I'm assuming he's probably in Elle's room. He gets to live the happy life even though he was abused by Vecna. Like, suddenly it's all about him. Like, Vecna was using him from the beginning, even though several times in season 3 and 4 the Mind Flayer and Vecna were saying that it was all. I mean, a lot of this I think kind of just goes under just a divorce gate. Like, these should, instead of being 3 and 4, it's like 2A and B, because it's again just kind of their hatred for women, but then their love for the men, where now Will has to be this savior, and then he doesn't even die. Like, I know my predictions were that Elle had to die and Will had to die, and I still stand by that. Will should be dead. Will should be dead. By all accounts, Will should be dead. They killed the Mind Flayer, and that should have killed Will. Like, and Vecna died. That should have killed Will. Even if they didn't want to kill Will and Elle, they could have just taken their powers away because Henry's dead. We're stuck with Will for so much of it, and I just can't get past Noah Schnapp's awful acting. So I just can't take him seriously, but I'm supposed to care about him with these powers and everything, even though in season 4 he had absolutely nothing to do. And I get it, it's because he was in California, so he wasn't able to tap into the hive mind. Why wasn't he doing that in season 3? All he did was whoa, my neck, it's close by. And that was it. That was it. He wasn't an interesting character because he wasn't really a character until season 5. Like I said, he was very much used as a plot point rather than a character, and that's fine. That is perfectly fine. That is your character. It's a plot point. You're what's pushing the plot forward. You're the one that is making things happen for the story. I can name so many other characters in other works that are very much like that because they're just there to push things along. And a lot of times it's women. Who would have guessed? In this case, it was Will, because that's what drove season 1 and 2. But then in season 5, he's no longer a plot point. He's a character, but then as a character, he's really shallow because the only thing about him is that he's an artist and he's gay. And the artist thing was kind of interesting because it was the first time that he'd ever really gone back to drawing stuff from the Upside Down in Vecna. Last time we saw him do that was in season 2. But season 3, he doesn't do that. Season 4, he just has the painting for Mike. And then in season 5, suddenly he's doing it again. Because they needed to give him something to do. Because otherwise he wouldn't have had anything to do, I guess. I don't know. I would try to rewrite this, but that's so much work. And, it's not worth the energy for me to do that at this point. Because the entire time I was like, man, I'm just going to write something better, And then also with Will, I don't know how I feel. I mean, I guess I kind of just feel negatively because I feel negatively about, all of this. But I feel pretty negatively about how they were treating him coming out. The coming out scene was horrendous. Why was he coming out to a room of, 13 people? Half of which don't know who he is, nor do they give a fuck. Murray would have called him a slur. Hopper was probably thinking one, but he was like, I love Joyce, so I can't do that. Steve was there. So was Vicky and Callie. And, was Mr. Clark and Erica there too? So many people are there for this coming out scene. And also they don't even make him say that he's gay, right? They just have him say, I don't like girls. I mean, I do, but not in the way that you guys do. Because they just couldn't have the one other gay character say that they're gay. I don't even know if they fully had Robin say that she was gay. They just kind of say that she likes girls. She liked Tammy Thompson. And he's like, Tammy Thompson's a girl. And she's like, Steve. But that was more impactful because then it's like this slow reveal almost of like, oh, we're setting up this possible romance between Steve and Robin, and then she's like, oh, I like Tammy Thompson, and he's like, but that's a girl, and he's like, oh, like that was more impactful because we're kind of in the same shoes as Steve, you know? But then in this one, we've already kind of figured out that Will is gay, and they're not really subtle about it, with Robin like getting all up in his grill, which again, like their friendship is fine, but not exactly what I was hoping to see from season 5. But they have that horrible coming out scene that they apparently spent 12 hours doing, which is insane to me, to spend like 12 hours on that one scene where it's just the worst coming out scene I think I've ever seen. And you know what's crazy? The same day that coming out scene was happening, there was another coming out scene in a different show that had $37 in a Dream and was shot in Canada. And if you don't know what show I'm talking about, I think you're living under a rock. But that coming out scene in comparison it's genuinely insane for a show that has a $400 million budget. And I'm sure most of that was for the actors, but you couldn't write a better script of a character coming out. And I assume it's, again, Divorcegate, it's men. You know what, maybe, hold on. Divorcegate/men. They just did Will dirty with that scene. And then, of course, they have, like, everything was confirmed off screen. So apparently Mike was supposed to know that he was talking about him when he mentioned that he had a crush on someone, his Tammy Thompson. And then he's like climbing up with Mike, and then he's like, so we can still be friends? And he's like, friends? No thanks. Best friends. That was ChatGPT. Or it was men. Or both. They were like, help me write a coming out scene, and then a scene with a friend that just came out and you're uncomfortable about it. Like they put that prompt into ChatGPT, and then with the ChatGPT, that's what it shat out because it was stealing from like several other things. God, I really hate that scene. I don't like girls. Well, I do, just not like how you guys like them. And also, so was that also because Will basically was forced to come out, not by his own will? Huh. But Vecna was forcing him to come out because of, if he didn't, he was gonna bring the whole world down because a man was in the closet. A lot of Vecna's motivations are very confusing to me, and I think I said in the last one, like, why can't we just have, like, a villain be a villain? But we kind of got rid of the whole villain being a villain thing when we decided to give Henry a backstory. If it was like the Mind Flayer, where it was just this eldritch horror type being, where it's kind of just animalistic, acting on impulse and instinct of consume, devour, destroy, you know, I could get away with it. But suddenly now we have all these motivations for Vecna, or not motivations, but like we have all this history for Vecna, and nothing happens. Which then I guess does bring us to my other sin of the show. Vecna is one of my sins for this show, especially season 5. My mom, interestingly enough, sent me an article about how Vecna kind of ruined Stranger Things. And yeah, he kind of does, because, again, like I just had said, we go from having this eldritch horror character of the Mind Flayer that is this otherworldly being that has no physical body and is coming into the right side up in season 3 to create this physical body in order to cause physical harm to Elle, to Henry, who now we have to explain his backstory. We have to explain why he is the way he is, where he got his powers, which is the Broadway play, which they briefly talk about but don't. Canon but not canon, I guess. Canon but never talked about. And it's just... They lose me. I get lost. I don't think he's a good villain. I don't. because they try too hard to explain him. And then because they're trying so hard to explain him, they want you to empathize with him because now he has trauma. And then with this trauma, it's creating X, Y, and Z. And like, again, I bringing that pin that I told you to put back or put in, I was right about when I was worried about what they were going to do with Vecna, where Noah Schnapp said that he was the most misunderstood character. I was right. He's misunderstood because he's being controlled by the Mind Flayer. This is against his will. Which then he, like, I guess he confirms that, like, it's not, because he is choosing actively to be on the side of the Mind Flayer and everything, because Will's trying to be like, this isn't you, Henry. This isn't you. You don't have to do this. You're just like me. We can defeat this being together. And he's like, no, we are one. And I just, banging my head against the wall when I saw that. I was so upset. Josh and I were talking about that beforehand of like, I swear to God, this is what they're going to do. That's why I put in my video. And then they do it. And we're like, so they did do it. And then they try to turn around and be like, well, he's just bad because he's bad. But then he's still doing things for no reason. He's being controlled by the Mind Flayer, but then why does the Mind Flayer want these 12 kids? Why does the Mind Flayer want to destroy both of these worlds? Like, how else is it going to survive? Like, you know? That's kind of how I feel for this entire thing. I just have to, like, because it's just bad. Like, right, and so with, like, Vecna and Will, they have him doing, like, oh, we're going to do such great things together. He only uses Will in season 2 as, like, a vessel or whatever, because then he creates the tunnels, I guess, while he was sleeping somehow. I don't know, maybe he was... They don't really explain that. I guess maybe he was controlling, like, a Demodog or something, and the Demodog was doing the digging. Demodog digging. Doug Demodome. Demodog digging dog. What? Demodog digging dog. I'll get there one day. He does that, and then he captures Will again in season 5. And he's like, you're going to be my vessel one last time. And then he only uses it to find Max and send the Demodogs after her. Which, come on, Vecna. You were able to go in and break Chrissy's bones, have her go blind, and you know, she's in like, and with her legs and everything, like, and he couldn't do anything like that for like any of season 5. They bring it back for when Will kills the Demodogs, but we don't see Vecna do it. And he's supposed to be this like really powerful being, so powerful that he was able to create Elle and Kali, and then, which we'll get to the Dr. K stuff, that's a fucking sin. He's this powerful thing, and then he doesn't even use half of the things that made him powerful, right? Like, he should know their plans before they even have a plan, because he is able to go into their minds. He mind hops. The Duffer Brothers were like, oh, this is an episode that you have to rewatch, the mind hopping one, where Elle goes into Max's brain or whatever, or like goes into one brain to go into another, like all that. And then he doesn't do any of that. He's supposed to be this big bad, and yet he's kind of the most underwhelming villain ever. The Mind Flayer was horrific in season 2. Because it's just this shadowy monster. How the hell do you defeat a shadowy monster? That's scary, because you don't know. What is this thing? And then you gave it a physical form and a person, so now it's all humanized. I don't know. I don't really get it. I really think that Vecna is such a huge misstep in the show. And that's nothing against Jamie Campbell-Bower. Like, he is a fantastic actor. I just think they gave him better things to do for acting in Twilight. Yeah, I said it. No, that's a joke. I think he's a phenomenal actor in this show. He's just given the worst stuff to work with, and that's not his fault. It's literally not. Like, if anything, I don't, like, you sort of walk with me here. If anything, it would have been more interesting if, like, Vecna wasn't a character, but it was the Mind Flayer using their dead friends and family as this villain to control instead of controlling Vecna. We already saw him do that with Billy, and, like, Billy wasn't fully dead or anything, but, like, obviously the Mind Flayer's powers kind of know no bounds if it's able to do all this stuff. Wouldn't it be interesting and, like, a interesting form of torture for the characters if suddenly Nancy has to shoot something that looks like Barb, like in the Hunger Games in the first one, when they're being attacked by the mutts, by, like, the dog things, where they have the faces of the tributes that they've just killed. So, like, Katniss and Peeta are running away from one that looks like Rue, and this little dog that looks like Rue is trying to kill them. And then they have to sort of make that decision of killing this, even though it looks like this child that she just witnessed die. Like, having them face something like that, where it's like Bob, Barb, I'd even throw in, like, Alexei, even though he wasn't killed by the Mind Flayer, he was killed by a Russian. It would be more interesting, because now this physical form is manipulating you to not kill it, right? But then it's just this tentacle monster thing. A lot of the ChatGPT script, Divorcegate because the men, and then that sort of, these, like, go into these two, and then Vecna being a bad guy. But then we also have to talk about, like, these other bad guys for this, which is Dr. K. There's no place for it. So much is already fucking happening in this show, and then they bring in Dr. K because she's trying to recreate the experiments that created Elle and Kali. And then in order to do that, they need to take her blood and put it into these pregnant women and restart that whole thing. But it's just dumb. It doesn't fit into the plot line of anything except to make Elle die, for Elle to choose to commit suicide. And, like, if I had a nickel for every time I watched a show where a poor abused girl who was manipulated by older men for their entire life, one of which was doing, like, some kinds of medical stuff, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but I'm kind of upset that it's happened twice. I'm talking about Jinx and Arcane. But yeah, like, the Dr. K stuff just really bothers me a lot. I think if that was something that was introduced earlier, of, like, this is why we have to also get rid of the Upside Down in, like, season 3 or something if it was discovered. But they just add in this new villain for a show that already has, like, a bajillion characters, and now we have another villain on top of Vecna who's already causing so many problems, and they don't even know about Vecna. Like, when Ellen Hopper, like, oh my god, the thing that's being kept behind that door is Henry, I have to be honest, y'all are fucking stupid. Y'all are fucking stupid. How on earth would it be Henry? They don't know about him. They have made no indication that they know about him. And more evidence for that is when they think that Elle is the one taking, like, Holly and Derek and all the other kids, which the logic behind the stuff with Dr. K just doesn't make sense to me. And the actress, I think she was in Terminator. I'm not exactly familiar with Terminator. I've seen clips from the second one when he's, like, going back down into the lava and he's like, I'll be back. But I don't think he says that. But I think she's in it. Linda Hamilton, I think, is her name. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm so sorry. But she just has no place. They also just have to make a woman a villain. Like, I know Dr. Brenner is dead, but, like, there are plenty of other doctors working with him that could have taken over that wasn't Dr. K, because she had no idea who Dr. K was. I would have been more like, oh, if suddenly it was, like, Dr. Owens, you know? But Dr. Owens is gone. He never came back, even though he could have been a really good asset to help things, but fuck me, I guess. And then can I also say too, all the stuff with the pregnant women in the hospital just does not sit right with me. I think with this season is a lot of fetishes. I'm gonna be honest. I think there's like a lot of fetishes. Like, again, with like the Holly and Will and Vecna with like the tentacles and stuff, and that all these tentacles are going into children in the way of like a hentai porn, like tentacle porn from hentai. And then they have these pregnant women who are literally just laying there with their bellies out and pumping stuff into them. And I know they're not doing it in the same way as like Vecna is to these children, but there's still something like really icky about it. And then all these women just die. They just kill off these like 12 or something pregnant women, and I guess whatever, they were already dying, but they didn't even try to save them. They're talked about once or twice or something, and that's the reason that Elle has to stay in the Upside Down as it implodes and blows up, because then now they'll be free from the military and stuff. But all those women just died. Is that not disturbing to anyone? That they just let all these pregnant women die when pregnant women are already some of the most vulnerable people in the world? It just feels icky. Again, it goes into the divorce gate of men, and then like, maybe the top 5, maybe the main sin is men and the Duffer Brothers. Because they really just, man, I kind of just wrote all these characters as sins, and that's kind of unfair to them. Dr. K, you can stay. I feel bad for these two, because I think they're just byproducts. They're all kind of just byproducts of the Duffer Brothers being horrible people. I'm not a big Millie Bobby Brown fan, but seeing her be so devastated for the fate of a character that she's played for a majority of her life, about 50% of her life, it made me sad. It really did make me sad, because all she ever wanted was for Elle to have a happy ending, and then Elle dies. Because of men. Not even just men. The effing Duffers are the biggest sin to come out of this goddamn show. And like, I can't, I was praising them so heavily, sort of, in the last episode that I did for my fix. I have to believe that they stole this script from like a college roommate. I do. I have to believe it. Because they had no plan. And the person that was like, it was supposed to be an anthology series. Yes, I know it was. And then Netflix stepped in and was like, no. But they still didn't have like a plan for it. They didn't try to sit down and plan anything at all. And they're like, yeah, everything is planned out. And then they're like, yeah, we started filming season 5 without having the last episode written. You what? You what? You have a $400 million budget in 3 years, and you start filming episode 1 without knowing what happens in episode 8? Look, I've never written like a full show just yet. I'm getting there. And I can see not fully knowing what happens, especially if the show is suddenly going on for a lot longer than you intended it to. But you had 3 years to figure it out. Okay, maybe like 2.5 or less, just because of the filming process. But you also spent so much time in between season 3 and 4, and I know because of COVID, but you had that COVID time to come up with something. You did. Because I can't not talk about it. You have this show, Stranger Things, with a $400 million budget and 3 years of work on it for it to look like shit from a butt. And then you have Heated Rivalry, which was filmed in about, at most, 40 days, $5 in a dream, and that show I need injected into my veins. And I wish I could pull everything from Stranger Things out of my brain, because it's not good. It was. Season 1 was really good. I mean, I think there are some missteps. I think some of the problems with Elle have stemmed all the way from season 1. But my God, you had all this time and money and did absolutely fucking nothing with it. Like, I think it was recently that Matt Damon had done an interview where Netflix needs the plot to be said in every single episode like 3 to 4 times, or like in a movie or whatever, because people are going to be on their phones. That is not the way to write things. It's really not, because for the people that are sitting and watching, they're just having the same stuff repeated to them over and over and over again. It gives us a nothing burger. Like, we start with nothing and we end with nothing. And that's the entirety of what season 5 felt like. So much happened that nothing happened, right? I was watching these reaction videos and I wrote down all these notes of things. I can like show you, but that's I don't know, maybe put in like a video right here or something of like all the notes that I took before I got to 6, 7, and 8. I can't believe I did. Hold on, I need to. So sorry. Okay, sorry. I had to put myself in timeout for a second. But nothing happens. Nothing. And then none of it matters. Especially if we're going to believe in conformity gate. That'll be my official sin 3. Conformity gate. I understand that people were really hoping for another episode. The Duffer Brothers aren't that smart. They are not that smart for another episode. They didn't think of it. They didn't plan it. This was their ending that was apparently rushed out of them, even though they had 3 years to do it. It's like procrastination on an essay or something. But it's like, I would procrastinate on some of my essays in college and then I'd still get a 92 or something. I wasn't using ChatGPT like they were. So maybe it's 'cause I'm better than them for that. What do you mean that your finale is so bad that people had to come up with a goddamn theory to justify it being bad? I think if I was a Duffer Brother, I'd get plastic surgery, change my name, and move to some European commune so that no one could ever see me again. Because this is embarrassing. This is just really, really embarrassing on all fronts for both of the Duffers, like, and for Netflix. It's all just embarrassing. I've written better short films that had more compelling endings than the finale of Stranger Things. And there's been some terrible finales that I've watched in my life, and Stranger Things is still up there. I've never seen Game of Thrones, but I think it's on par with that finale. And it was also, like, I think just like a bad season. What is it about shows getting to that last season and just like not having it be good? I guess that goes into like the whole media wanting more thing, and then you get more and more and more, and then they have to end it, and then it's not good. The finale was underwhelming. It was 40 minutes of an epilogue. 40 minutes, 18 months later after the ending. And Elle's dead, and then they have the whole like, oh, like, I believe, because there's this theory that Mike comes up with for him to cope with the fact that she's dead, I guess. I love Gaten's performance in that, where he's like, I believe. It really is a parent, like, trying to affirm Santa Claus to their kid when they're like 6. I believe in Santa. I believe Elle's alive. But the fact that, like, none of them are, like, sad about it, except for Mike. Hopper moved on from Elle, even though, like, the whole last episode was him trying to make sure that she made it out alive. It makes me so angry. I'm so angry about this show. Things she said, all the things she said, running through my head, running through my head, running through my head. This is not enough. Can't you tell I'd rather be watching Heated Rivalry or talking about Heated Rivalry than this show? Because I do! It was so good! And this show was so bad. But I wanted to talk about it. Because I just needed to air out all my gripes. I'm trying to think of the other stuff from the finale. The fight in Dimension X. That shit wasn't a fight. Also, when they were beating the hell out of the Mind Flayer, Will should have been hurt. Because earlier, the Demogorgons, like in episode 4, were hurting him, right? Like, he was getting hurt when they were blasting it with fire. Same thing that happened in season 2. But then, like, they're throwing Molotov cocktails on it. Nancy's shooting it with a shotgun, which also, for some reason, is what takes it down. But he doesn't get hurt by this at all. Dimension X looked awful. Again, $400 million budget, and every single scene looks like absolute garbage. Not to compare it to Heated Rivalry again, but $37 in a dream. $37 in a dream, and I can talk about one scene and one framing from episode 4 of season 1 of Heated Rivalry, and I could talk about that for like 10 minutes, about that framing and how beautiful it is and how it's able to show what's going on in one of the characters' minds. Can't do that in season 5 of Stranger Things. Someone pointed out that it's very much filmed for TikTok, and it is, because everything is like in... Here's where like center frame is. Everything is in the center of the frame. So now it's so easy for those TikTok editors to make heartbreaking edits with Purple Rain by Prince instead of literally having anything interesting happen in the shots. Like, it's all just in the middle. They're like, it's so parallel, and it's not done for any cinematic reason other than... It's not done for cinematic reason. It's done for clickbait reasons. It's done for TikTok edits. It's done for YouTube shorts. It's done for Instagram. Like, and there's no artistic intention behind it besides we want more traction through other social medias. So that's why we're centering everything within one frame, or like in the center of the frame, because we can't be creative anymore. Because we ran out of ideas once my wife left. She took the ideas with her. I'm sure she probably had like a really good season 5 setup, and then they divorced, and she's like, oh my god, do you think she ate them, like the divorce papers? She put some ketchup on them and she ate them. I'd love that for her. That's like a deep niche cut for my theater fellows out there, but I love that for her if she did. I ate them. I ate the divorce papers. But instead she's like, I ate the season 5 script. Because that's sort of how it feels. But yeah, Conformity Gate, it was just bad. None of it sat right with me at all. They just really missed the mark with that final battle. There was no Demodogs, no Demogorgons, no Demobats, even though the Demobats like almost killed Steve and they killed Eddie. But the Demogorgons are just gone. It's like an underwhelming fight. They're able to take down the Mind Flayer with some shotguns and Molotov cocktails. And then the combination of Elle and Will having powers to throw Vecna onto this spike to impale him, and then Joyce has the last laugh of chopping his head off, and like, I guess good for her, but like, I don't know why she was there, because she didn't really do anything. I would have thought it made more sense for her to stay behind with Hopper and Murray. I'm yawning because of how boring this finale is. It would have made more sense if she stayed behind, but then she has to do like that, you fucked with the wrong family. And then she's like chopping his head off, and they're all having these flashbacks, including Holly, which we just saw that stuff happen. Them hurting Vecna isn't hurting Will at all. It's not hurting Elle, which I don't know, they're supposed to all kind of be connected, and then nothing happens with that. They rescue the kids, and the kids are free. I don't know, and like, I know I said that I had a feeling that they were going to kill Elle. I just didn't think it was going to be like that, you know? That the only way for the Upside Down to no longer exist is if Vecna, Will, and Elle don't exist, you know? But then they just blow it up. Why didn't they blow it up in season 1? Or 2? When they've been to the Upside Down? Did they go to the Upside Down in season 2? I know for a fact they did in season 1 and in season 4. Why didn't they just blow it up then? Also, how do they have, like, such a powerful, like, nuke to blow up the Upside Down? Ooh, sorry. So also one of the things I have with like my problems with like the fighting Vecna, the Dr. K and all that is they have this device that's able to subdue Elle's powers. Like she's like this, and then Kali is also like that. Why didn't one of them grab one of those and then bring it to Vecna? I would have been like, whoa, if this can hurt Elle, and probably hurts Will too. Why don't we use it against Vecna? He'll be powerless. He'll be human at that point when we take away his power like that. So if we bring that with us, and then he's like, that would have been interesting. That would have had a fucking use for why it was introduced for Elle to just be tortured. But I guess it's more about the torture of women than the torture of Jamie Campbell Bower, which I think they would have gotten a lot of edits if they were torturing him a little bit and he was like on his knees, like holding his head and stuff. I'm just trying to spitball because they apparently love Jamie Campbell Bower so much, and they love all the men so much. Like, how can we help them bring in more views for these men, you know? How did Murray not die? Like, literally, they're like, oh, there's gonna be one of the most gruesome deaths in season 5, and I'm pretty sure it was probably one of the soldiers that was killed by a Demogorgon. Unless they meant like Kali, because that was gruesome to me, that the fact that they decided to kill a child who was abused for most of her life, and then she fell in with a crowd that, well, yes, they loved her, she was still kind of just being taken advantage of for her power. And then they killed the other girl who was abused for most of her life. She only got to live 4 years, not even less, like as a free girl. She was never able to figure out who she was. She was never really able to have a normal life ever. And they're trying to claim that she's like the magic of childhood, and like I know a lot of their inspiration was E.T. and stuff, but it's like you made her the magical childhood thing because she had powers, not because she had the magical childhood. She made everyone else have a magical childhood while she had to suffer because she's a woman. I'm really worked up about that. Again, I was right in my prediction that Elle was going to die. I just didn't think it was going to be like that, where she was sacrificing herself in this really bullshit way. Like, none of them thought of any way to, like, actually hide her or get her away from the military. Like, in season 2, Murray was able to expose Hawkins' lab with Nancy about what happened to Barb. Couldn't they do something like that? Like, oh no, Hawkins' Labs is back and they're trying to do all these torturous experiments on pregnant women and their babies and children. Here's our example. And they don't even have to say anything about the powers. They can bring up that it was a theory and then that these kids are just tortured and nothing worked, because now at this point Elle and Will and everyone don't have powers anymore because Vecna is dead. Genuinely went from enjoying this show to absolutely despising it, I think. Right, I think I kind of briefly mentioned it, but the finale in the last season would have been a lot more interesting instead of maybe Vecna is taking children to, like, he's taking our main characters and putting them in his mind palace, and they could, like, join Max there or something. Because I think one of the most compelling scenes from, I think it was the finale, or it was, like, the second to last episode, but, Vecna goes into Hopper's mind and brings back a lot of his Vietnam PTSD and his PTSD with Sarah, and he thinks that he's killed Elle. Holy shit, I was like, where was this? Where was all of this? That would have been significantly more interesting to have if this entire season was him just fucking with people's minds. Also, how did he not see their plan in Hopper's mind? He should have known that they were coming. There's no way to surprise that man. There's no way. I'm so mad at this show. They were like here. In terms of shit being good, right here. And then now we're like, oh, we're going off screen, right? Because it was that. Sorry, I'm a little unhinged today, and I'm kind of just getting more and more upset. I also just don't like my hair anymore. The curls are not staying in the way that I wanted them to. I was really trying to be season 2 Elle. I don't know, I didn't have anything to really pull it off. This was the closest I could do. I used to have an Elle costume. I don't know, I think I might have donated it. It was like her little season 3 jumper that she gets when she's with Max. Broke up Nancy and Jonathan, which people were like confused as if that was like a breakup or not. And I think that's just because Natalia Dyer and Charlie Heaton have such good chemistry and are so in love with each other it probably, like, they didn't need to break up, that she needed to be independent, but I don't think Jonathan was ever impeding on her independence, because, like, you can be an independent person and still be in a relationship, right? Their relationship wasn't just built on traumatic bond. They always had some sort of something, and it just sort of escalated because of the trauma. Like, been there, you know, like, you meet someone, you kind of have this like connection that you're not exactly sure how to go about, and then something really traumatic happens, or not really, but like something kind of traumatic happens that pushes you closer together, but then you learn, oh, we have a world in common, and maybe at first it was a trauma bond, but it became a lot more than that. And I thought that was sort of their whole point in season 2, that they just, yes, they have this trauma bond and they tried to avoid being together, but there was still something that was drawing each other to them. Like, it was bad. I really hate the setting that they put them in for that scene. Like, that was the cum room, right? Why did they make the melting stuff that color? All of the stuff was melting. Shouldn't it have been like black? Why was it all just this like off-white that looked like a Demogorgon, just kind of splunked everywhere, busted a nut into everywhere in the Hawkins lab. Like, and I guess it's supposed to be explained by whatever that force field is that Nancy shoots, but it just doesn't work, because we can see that it melts other colors, because there's the exit, like the fire exit, it's like red and it's melting. Not everything there was white. It was like gray. It wasn't even gray, it was just white. You know what it looked like. I can't be the only one that was like, damn. Which it could also just be like the men thing and the fetishist stuff with like the tentacles, the pregnant women, and now the cum room. I don't know. Now that it's over, I'm like, maybe I'll never have to think about this show again. I don't think that the Duffer Brothers should ever be allowed to write again. I don't. They even said that like they don't want to be writing, but then why didn't you hire someone? And I know that they did have other writers, because I think, what's his name? His name's Paul Dichter. It's spelled Dichter, which for like other people, like Joey Richter, it's Richter, so it's Richter, so it's like Dichter. I don't know how to pronounce his name. And also shout out Joey Richter, but he wrote the Sorcerer episode, which is the one where Will finds out that he has powers, and he does like his I got to do it because I have my little fake bloody nose. And I have makeup on my hand, but he wrote that one. He wrote the Dear Billy, and then one of the other like highest rated episodes. So obviously he's the one that knows what the fuck he's doing. So I hope he gets to create more and write more. But I don't think the Duffer Brothers should ever pick up a pen or a pencil ever again. I don't think they should step foot on a film set if their research is ChatGPT for Dungeons and Dragons. Which also, this is such a small nitpick, but like I do play a little bit of D&D. I'm creating a sorcerer character like right now. Sorcerers are not what Will and Elle are. Nope. Not a sorcerer whatsoever. Sorcerers have innate magic, meaning the magic comes from like within them. They're able to harness their powers from themselves. Will and Elle kind of have like a deity almost, and Henry, which I guess would be like the Mind Flayer, because the Mind Flayer is what gives them their powers. If the Mind Flayer doesn't exist, they don't have powers. Whereas like my sorcerer character, yes, there's like all this ancestry and stuff, but like ultimately he has magic. He was born with magic. This magic is within him, not bestowed upon him. It's not something that he fully learns. It's something that he just kind of knows. I don't know. It's the dumbest little thing, but they're not sorcerers. I know. I'm probably. I think at this point in time for D&D, I guess he would be, just because of the rules, but things have changed. So now that things have changed, I'm like, that man is not a sorcerer. He has a deity, and he channels that magic through the deity. So, dumb little nitpick, but I just wanted to throw that out there of why I'm a little like, sorcerer Will the Wise, even though I think Will the Wise is supposed to be a wizard. This is a plea to the Duffer Brothers. They're never going to see this. Never write again. You've made your money, now swim in it, and leave the industry alone. No one wants to see Stranger Things anymore because of how bad your finale was. People thought that because it was so bad that more was coming, that Netflix crashed, which is insane. We've been here before with other shows. It's never gonna happen. You're never gonna be able to come back from this, which is why, again, I think if I was a Duffer Brother, I would change my name, get plastic surgery, move to like a European commune where no one knew who I was. How do you come back from that? You have to write something like Oscar worthy, and Stranger Things didn't even win like an Emmy, you know? So I don't think they're ever gonna get there, especially since they're so hell-bent on having the most one-dimensional femme characters in the fucking world, where they're reduced to literally their relationship with men, which happened to pretty much all of them because men... I don't know. At this point, I think I'm just gonna keep talking in circles about why I'm upset. I do want to just like give some shout outs to some things that I did appreciate from season 5. I appreciated the little upside down where they're trying to give each other communication about when a burn is happening. I think that seems really creative. I like when they're in Derek's family's home and they're setting up for the Demogorgon attack. I like that there's no speaking in the scene. It's all just music and they're just setting up because we already know what the plan is. They don't need to re-explain it, even though by Netflix standards they should have probably just been explaining it as they were doing it. But that scene was really cool. I liked when, he pulls up with the chainsaw so they can make the hole. But they're very smart about it. They have Lucas being the one it chases after because he is the fastest. They kind of hone in on the fact that he was a basketball player, so he can jump, he can run. I did like that scene. I like the fight that happens between Dustin and Steve. I think it's in episode 6, like 5 or 6, one of the two, when they split up in Hawkins' lab. And Steve is like, I told you guys to leave, and he didn't save anyone. He just got himself killed. And I gotta say, yeah, I agree with Steve. Eddie didn't have to die, but half of these characters in this show are all suicidal. So he did, and then poor Dustin had to be the one to find his body. So that is a lot of trauma for poor Dustin that he really didn't have to go through, but like Eddie kind of thrust that upon him. And I'm mad that they then have Steve like retcon that argument later of just like, I was upset and jealous. Like, no, I think you have every right to be upset with this man for just like getting himself killed. And then now he has to watch this boy that he's been protecting and loving for years go through some of the strongest grief that he then doesn't experience again after watching one of his best friends die. But whatever. Their acting in that is like really good. I like when they like Dustin starting to beat the hell out of Steve, because Steve also just can't go a single season without getting beaten up. But Steve doesn't fight back. He kind of just lets Dustin do what he has to do to sort of get that anger and frustration out. And then when he's like begging him to not go rescue Nancy and stuff, and he's just like, I can't let this happen again. I can't. Oh my God. I think that was the most emotional that the entirety of season 5 made me. And it's definitely just because Gaten and Joe have a very good chemistry. I know they want to keep performing together, maybe in like a play. Maybe I'll write something and I'll show it to them and be like, guys, I have something for you. Do you want to act in it? Even though I'm just this random ass person on the internet. But that was really good. I want to give them their flowers for that scene. The scene with Robin and Lucas in the hospital and they have the music on. Maya Hawke's acting for that was really good, where she's like begging him to turn it off and he's like, I can't. And she's like, you have to. Like their acting for that is, I was just like, oh. Because you can tell that like it's killing her to have to ask that. She's heartbroken because she doesn't want to lose Max either, but ultimately that is what needs to happen, because she was also like one of the reasons why Max was saved in the first place for season 4. That was really good, although was kind of weird because they're like the Demodogs don't understand English, right? Or like language, and they don't, so I don't understand why they would be drawn to the music anyway, but maybe that's just me. I thought that was really good. The scene with like Hopper when he thinks he killed Elle is really good. Oh my God, I'm sorry, like since I'm dressed as Elle, I do have to point out, like, we don't get any Joyce and Elle, even though She like is her adoptive mother in season 4, and then she's also like the one that is so kind and caring to her. It's like the first time she's ever truly experienced what it's like to have a mom in season 1. And then we just don't really see any of Joyce's heartbreak, because I guess she has both of her boys, so it doesn't matter. There's probably more that I'm missing, but honestly, I'm just so exhausted by this. There's so many other things I'd rather be talking about. I've mentioned one of them at least 2 to 3 times in this video, and so I'll probably get to talking about that because it's so good. Not this show. This show sucks. And then we'll also talk about like better queer representation, because this show is for outcasts, and yet conformity gate happens because none of them are allowed to be different. Because if you're different, like Elle, you die. So anyway, that is my fix, episode 2. I don't think I'll be talking about Stranger Things again anytime soon. I didn't watch the documentary. I'm kind of scared to watch the documentary since I already know that they ChatGPT'd stuff. I'm like, I know what I need to know about them now. Yeah, thanks guys. This was episode 2. I hope some of it made sense. I think it did, but I guess I'll see you guys at the cottage next time. Bye guys. Subscribe if you want more. I think I was told to mention something like that. But yeah, I'll see y'all at the cottage when we talk about hockey.